Hi everyone! In this video I'm going to review two of my favorite episodes from the Superpowers team, Galactic Guardians. Now, one change between the previous legendary Superpowers show and Galactic Guardians was the art style. So the characters were more cartoonish in legendary Superpowers show, whereas in Galactic Guardians they're more photorealistic and based on the designs of Jose Luis Garcia Lopez. So the Super Friends are more realistic looking, they have more defined physiques, and in addition to that, this series has a much darker tone than any previous Super Friends series. And that's one of the reasons why I love it. It seems like the natural evolution of the original 1970s Super Friends series. And one of my favorite episodes is called The Wild Cards, which introduces the Royal Flush Gang, who were villains in the DC universe at the time. They have some pretty cool designs and capabilities. In this story, they are well-organized burglars, but they don't have any superpowers until they meet Ace after an encounter with Cyborg, who was trying to stop them. So like an episode of Challenge of the Super Friends, the Royal Flush Gang are supervillains now, and they face off against the Justice League of America, the Super Friends, and capture them. Another noticeable difference is that the action is more intense, so there's a higher level of violence in these stories than there has ever been in previous Super Friends iterations, and that's what makes it more fun. Also, that some of the more powerful members of the Superpowers team do have difficulty and are disempowered and or captured, so that makes things higher stakes and more interesting than, oh, Superman and Wonder Woman, they can solve this in about 3 minutes. So it makes it more interesting than that. Another aspect of this episode that I liked was the fact that the characters are a bit more complicated than one would expect. Ten, for example, has a conscience. And I think it was a good idea to have Batman, Robin, and Cyborg together for this part of the story, because it's kind of like picking up a New Teen Titans Justice League of America crossover issue from that time period, so the mid-80s, 1985, 86. So I would say overall, this episode has great action sequences, suspense, character development, and it's a great example of how the cartoons were becoming more aligned with the more mature, serious tone of DC and Marvel comics at the time. This is also a move away from the didactic moralizing that was common at the time, with most cartoons having to have these moral lessons. So it's nice to see a more complicated morality working its way into superhero cartoons. The next great episode of Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians is the first one, The Seeds of Doom, which introduces Cyborg, Victor Stone. Cyborg is one of the most interesting DC Comics characters to have ever been created, arguably. He was a champion athlete who had a horrible accident, so he's a superhero who had disabilities and now has all these modifications that mark him and make him stand out, so he always feels like an outsider. He's a very clearly traumatized character who has gone from having this elevated status, the star athlete, to having all these very visible cybernetic replacements for parts of his body that were injured. So understandably, he's not comfortable with that, and he feels most at home with other people with disabilities. So he is a revolutionary character in that regard. And he is a character with layers of diversity within his identity. So I think that's quite incredible for the comic at the time as well as the Superpowers cartoon. And the way he becomes part of the team does not feel forced. And it's great that he's paired with Firestorm because they have great chemistry together. They are alike in some ways, but completely different in others, and it works. So, overall, Seeds of Doom is a great first episode for the series. The action is great, the character development is sincere, and it is a lot of fun. So, in a sense, Superpowers Team Galactic Guardians is the series that probably older fans at the time were asking for. We're asking for more mature storylines and character developments that were aligned with the comic books at the time. The special feature is a mini documentary. It's full of cool insights from writers and artists, people who worked on the show or people who are doing retrospectives on it. So any fan will love it. So I highly recommend it. Thanks for watching, and I am going to review more episodes from Galactic Guardians next. Bye for now.